And then we'll get going. All right. So as always, we'll start with just a roll down. It's one quick one. You can do it against the wall or out in the middle of the floor just to get a feel for how your body is doing today. So just standing up tall, sinking your weight into your feet, feeling nice and grounded, and then we'll tuck your chin and roll down. One vertebrae at a time. Trying to let your arms really dangle. Give your hips a little sway, your head a shake, and then we'll roll back up. Bending your knees slightly, tucking your tail, and really feeling how your ribs can stay contained as you stand up. We'll do one more roll down, this time with a little bit more in core intention. So you're really engaging your core to pull yourself down. Getting to the bottom, giving yourself that shake, and then rolling back up. So I always hesitate to do this when there's a true yogi around, but we're going to do a mini little yoga flow warm-up. It's not a
No, I'm not a true yogi.
You are, don't say that. So Lisa is a yogi, and she cares about these things.
I'm a chill yogi. I'm a go with the flow yogi.
Excellent. So the moves will be familiar, and you can kind of put whatever intention you want on it. So
Perfect.
We'll start at the top of the mat. I'm gonna shed. These get warmer quicker than I'm expecting. All right. So just stretching up tall. And right from the get-go, trying to feel that your pelvis is slightly tucked under and your ribs are slightly pulled in. So right away, that gives you a little bit of core connection. Stretching tall, and then sticking your tailbone out, flat back, fold forward. And let your head dangle. Come up part way, so hands on your shins. Really trying to press your chest forward, squeeze your shoulder blades together so you get some openness in your upper back. And then fold. You'll plant your hands. Doesn't matter if you have a side that you like to start on, go for it. If not, stepping back with your right foot to lunge. And then turning your back foot out like warrior two so that your heel lines up with the middle of your back arch. And we're going to windmill up into this warrior. So take a moment to tuck your tail and then sink into your front knee a little bit more. So you're staying in a nice tight plane. And stretch your arms out. Relax through your shoulders. You're going to flip your front palm, reach up and over. So keep trying to reach long, so you're not collapsing anywhere. You're trying to keep lots of tension in your core, reach long, and then come back through the center, hinge forward to place your elbow on your knee, and again, reach your top arm over the top. So keep trying to tuck your tail slightly and open your chest towards the ceiling. And since you have that core connection, as you do that, you can start to feel it get into that back hip. And we'll do that again. So passing through the center, keeping that tail tuck, reach up and over. So you're trying to be as tall as possible. Reach back through your fingers and forward through your knees, so you're feeling that length through your side. So we're bringing the attention to that whole midsection. And forward, reaching forward, elbow to your knee, and over the top. So this time I want you to bring that front hand towards your hip, and you can feel that makes you rotate, and you get a little bit more length through that long side. And back through the center. We're going to do one more. Flipping your palm, reach up and over. Still rotating your chest towards the sky. And then you're going to take your top hand, bend your elbow to hold onto your head. Because then you can pull your head away from your shoulders and let your head be heavy in your hands. So again, you just get that little bit of extra awareness in your shoulder and all through your side. And through the center, one more time to the front. Hinge forward. So nice and long, so you're reaching through your fingers and your back foot, and then bending your elbow to cradle your head, and then you can pull your head gently away from your body and let that help you twist a little bit more open towards the sky. So unwinding up, and then we'll windmill down, back to lunge, and just step your foot back to down dog to pedal out your feet. We'll do one vinyasa flow in between. So wave forward, come up onto your toes, pull your ribs in, your hips under to bring yourself forward to plank. Lower down chaturanga, shift forward, and then really squeeze your shoulder blades together as you press up into your cobra so you get that nice openness through your upper back. And then shift up and back down dog. And we'll do the other side. I'm just going to flip around so I can still see you. And you're going to step your other foot forward into your lunge, turning your back foot out so your front heel bisects your back the back arch, and then windmill up. Maybe a bit more excited. So take that moment to really set your position, tucking your tail, lunging into that front knee. By tucking your tail, you'll feel that immediately helps you bring your ribs in. So this core connection you're going to try to keep the whole time. Awesome. And then we're going to wave. So flipping your front palm, reach up and over. Trying to reach back, up and back through your top hand and forward through your front knee so you get lots of length through that side. Coming through the center, hinge forward, and then elbow down, reach over the top. Trying to reach through your fingers and pressing into your pinky toe and the outside edge of your back foot so you can get lots of length. Back through the center. If you've lost it, readjust your tail tuck ribs in, reaching up and over. This time letting yourself rotate a little bit more towards the ceiling and reach long through your arm. And through the center, hinge forward, elbow down. This time bringing that front hand towards your hip and feeling that allows you to rotate a little bit more and get a little bit more reach. And back to the center. Last round. Reaching back. So setting your position, reach through your fingers forward through your knee, and then you can bend your elbow to cradle your head. So you're actually like holding the weight of your head in your hand and pulling it gently away from your body. And unwind to the front one more time. Hinge forward, up and over. And then same thing. Get that nice length. Root back through the outside edge of your back foot, and then bend your elbow to cradle your head and gently pull it away. So you should really feel this in your back hip, so you feel that shoulder to hip connection. So unwind, coming down to your lunge, and then just step back, down dog. Awesome. And we'll do vinyasa flow just to stretch it all out. So coming up onto your toes, tuck your tail, pull your ribs in. Feel that brings you forward. Spiraling your elbow creases forward and lower down chaturanga. Shift forward. Exaggerate the squeezing your shoulder blades together to open your chest. Press up to cobra. And then you can sit back on your heels, spreading your knees nice and wide. And just give yourself a little shift side to side to give your hips a little break. Awesome. Okay, so before we do our plank section, let's just warm up our forearms a little bit when you're ready. Cool. So warming up your forearms, it's good before plank so your wrists don't get too tired. But it's going to bring a bit more energy into your hands. So then your wrists, if you kind of think about it as like everything's just static, everything's stacked over your wrist, then that's the joint that's going to take all the pressure. The more you can engage your fingers and find that push, it sounds counterintuitive, but the more you can push the ground away, the less pressure your wrist has to take. But if they're not all warmed up and like activated, just like any other muscle, then they're not really going to do that work. So that's when you're going to get those like tired wrists when you're doing lots of planks or handstands. So we'll warm them up a little bit. Sitting however you're comfortable, or just circling your wrist. trying to pull your fist towards your forearm as much as you can, and getting as much rotation both of your wrist in this circle, but also turning your whole forearm as you're circling. And then switch direction. And then make your fist a little bit tighter. So squeeze a little tighter so there's just a bit more activity in the whole system. Awesome. Stretching your arms out to the side. We're going to go, actually before we do these guys, we're just going to go one arm out to the side with your palm away from you. So when you reach your fingers up towards the sky or the ceiling, it's hard to decide what to say when you're outside, you'll probably feel a little bit of like tension going through your palm, your pinky, and up your forearm. So that's a little bit of nerve tension, which can also make your wrists a little unhappy. So just like we do with your legs, we're going to do a nerve glide for one of these your shoulder nerves. So when you reach your fingers up, you feel that bit of tension. So to relieve it, you're going to tip your head towards your hand a little bit. And now you're going to move your hand down and tip your head away. And you just switch back and forth. So fingers up, palm away, you're going towards it. And then you're relieving the tension from your wrist end and increasing it from your head end. Just back and forth. Trying to get as much movement in your wrist as possible while keeping your fingers straight. So I know I have a lot of nerve tension, so when I flex my wrist up, my fingers tend to bend, but that's relieving the tension from the nerve at the very tip of it. So you don't want to do that. Awesome. And then we'll do the other arm. The arm out to the side. So if you can't remember, because they differ if your palm is up or down, if you can't remember, just bring it to neutral, flex it up, and flex it down. Wherever you feel more tension, that's what you want to relieve from the other end. So it's palm away, fingers up. Okay, I have some tension, so I'm going to lean towards it. And then palm down, lean it away. And with nerve glides, you're really just like flossing or gliding the nerve. You don't need to hold it. And doing a set of 10 or so. Awesome. And then you can shake it out. Sweet. All right, both hands out, flexing your palms, wiggling your fingers. And then down. And palms in towards you, wiggle. And away. Awesome. Okay, and then the last one we're going to do is getting this kind of action, which I call sloping because I climb. So if you're climbing on a sloping hold, you don't get to bend your fingers because there's nothing to like hook into. Instead, you're like trying to push the whole of your hand onto that sloping thing. So that really gets your forearms warmed and your fingers. So you're bending at the major knuckle. Your fingers are straight, so you're almost trying to hyperextend your fingers for as long as possible, and then curling into a fist like a fiddlehead. Opening up, and going again. So straight fingers for as long as you can. It's really awkward, and then you get to curl them in and open. Straight fingers, curl them in. Yeah, we'll do 2 more. Yeah, awesome. So you can feel that kind of gets the whole gambit of your forearm a little bit warm. So now you can use that in your plank. So the actions, we'll just kind of turn it all on before we truly do plank. So in your tabletop, you're going to spread your fingers nice and wide. You're going to spiral your elbow creases forward and push the ground away. Really trying to keep your thumb and again that major knuckle line grounded. And then see if you can tent your fingers a little bit. So push the pads of your fingers into the ground and bend your fingers slightly. So you should feel as you do that and you keep pushing the ground away that your wrists, some of the pressure is taken off of them and you can feel your shoulders start to engage. So that's the push that you want in your handstand. And every plank that you do, because then you're not just like hanging out on a little joint that doesn't like it. You're really bringing the energy right from your fingertips up your arm and into your shoulders. So it's going to be more difficult at first, but ultimately it'll make the whole thing more efficient because more of your muscle groups are helping you. So with that in mind, we're going to come to the back of your mat in a forward fold, and we'll do our little plank flow. So we're walking forward to inchworm to start. So with each step, trying to push through your fingers smoothly, walking all the way forward, past your plank to this inchworm position. We're going to hold that, try to tuck your tail, pull your ribs in, and push the ground away, and then walk your feet in to meet your hands. Just like your hands, trying to push through your toes, so you're using all the joints in your toes and your ankles to walk up nice and gently. When you get to the top, take a moment in your forward fold, and then we'll walk on back. So, pushing the ground away, spiraling your elbow creases forward, and then walking your toes back. And you keep pushing the ground away, keeping your ribs pulled in until you get to that inchworm, and then hold for a moment. Pulling your ribs in, tucking your tail, and push the ground away with your hands. And then we're walking back to meet your feet. The first couple of steps are a bit awkward. Just go with it. And then as soon as you can, start trying to think, pushing through your fingers to peel your hands off the ground. So, and then we'll do that one more time, all the way forward and all the way back. So we're really trying to keep as much weight on your hands as you can as you're pushing through to start challenging your upper body. Forward. Arriving in that inchworm, and then tucking your tail, pulling your ribs in, and pushing the ground away. And walking your feet in. Pausing in that forward fold for a moment. And then walking your way back. So pressing into your hands, so you're thinking, almost press the handstand to walk your feet out. Spiraling your elbow creases forward, pushing the ground away until you arrive at the inchworm. Ribs in, pelvis under, push the ground, and then walk your hands back into meet. Excellent. Okay, now we're going to do a line of little press shifts now that everything's all warm. So your goal, you're going to have your hands about a foot in front of your feet. Your feet don't have to be together. They can be in a little straddle. That makes it slightly easier. You're going to come up on your toes, spiral your elbow creases forward, push to try to float your feet in to meet your hands. Yeah! And then move your hands about a foot forward and do it all again. So each time trying to push the ground away to get your hips high and then float your toes forward. It will not be a slow, controlled float at first. If it was, that means that you would just be able to do a press to handstand. Nice. So with each one, trying to hover for a microsecond longer. And then when you get to the top, take a moment. You can grab onto your elbows, let your head dangle, your upper body relax, and then we're going to try them backwards. If you feel like you're not going anywhere, and if you're like, oh God, I'm never going to get to the end, just doing 5 shifts is a good number. So now we're going to try to go backwards. So for these ones, the straddle will definitely make it slightly easier. So you're trying to get your toes in line with your kind of the backs of your hands, saying push, and then try to reach your feet back. Really trying to come up on your toes to stack, push the ground away, and then let your feet float back. And then when you get to the bottom of your mat, or you've done about 5 shifts, you can bend your knees to roll up and give your hamstrings and head a little break. Nice. Yeah, so you can really start to feel that push gives you lots of control of your lower body, and you can find access to that compression. Without the push, your legs just feel really heavy. Awesome. Okay. Little plank flow for us. So let's set our position from tabletop so we can be really aware of our ribs and pelvis. So coming to your hands and knees. Right from the get-go, spiraling your elbow creases forward and pushing up. So you're thinking mad cat, not just like straight plank. You're going to step one foot back, tuck your tail, pull your ribs in, and then the other one can join it. You're going to spread your feet a little wider than shoulder width, and we're going to start with elbow taps. So really pushing the ground away, tucking your tail. You're going to lift one hand and tap your other elbow and down. Elbow and down. Resisting the urge to shift side to side or rotate. So that's why the wide feet will give you that wider base of support, so that gets a bit easier. So we're going to do 10 to each side. Really feeling that you're placing your hand on the ground and pushing it away right away. Yeah. And notice what micro adjustments you can do with your pelvis to help keep you stable. So you should be able to ideally balance something on your back, like a ball, that won't just roll off to the side. Pulling your ribs in, tucking your tail, making sure you're breathing. And after 10, spiral your elbow creases forward, lower yourself down, chaturanga. Hands nice and wide this time to really pull your shoulders away from your ears. Roll up cobra. Trying to squeeze your shoulder blades together, take a deep breath, and hopefully feel all your ab muscles around your ribs letting go a little bit. Waving down, and shifting back, downward dog. Okay, this time with your feet together, you're going to do some split shifts. So you're going to lift one leg towards the ceiling, push the ground away, spiral your elbow creases forward. So right from here, you're feeling that handstand push, and as you spiral your elbow creases forward, so spiral them out and then back in, and feel that encourages your ribs to knit in together a little bit more. So you have the spiraling your elbows automatically encourages your line to get a little bit better. So keeping that leg high, you're going to look forward, shift forward, so you're in this kind of plank split, and back. With each pull forward, waving forward just like you would for core plank. So pulling your ribs in, tucking your tail, and back. Ribs in, tuck your tail, but keep trying to lift your heel and back, so you're starting to turn on your glutes as well as your shifters. And on this next one, on the 5th one, we're going to stay forward, push the ground away, pull your ribs in, and try to lift your heel a little higher to hold. And then shift back, step your foot down, pedal out your feet. And we'll do the other side. So lifting that leg up, spiraling your elbow creases forward, push the ground away, feel that kind of pull your ribs in. And then use your glute to lift your heel high as you shift forward to plank and back. Shifting forward comes from coming up on your toe and pulling your ribs in. Awesome. As you pull your ribs in, again, that automatically kind of forces you to pull your hands down, so you're pushing into the ground, and that's pulling you forward. Just making you think about kind of what's initiating all these movements. On this one, the 5th one, you're going to stay forward, push the ground away, pull your ribs in, and try to lift your heel a little higher. And then shift back, step it down. You can just take a break, or if you want to come through a vinyasa, go for it. And the hold definitely gets your butt going, so sit back on your heels to stretch it out for a moment. Excellent. Okay, the last one we're going to do in the plank is, I'm going to turn the other way so I don't kick anything. Oh no, that's going to be worse. We're going to do the step through forwards. So all of this is shifting, but with control of your core. So in case you haven't seen it, the movement, you're going to go from down dog. You're going to step one foot forward and to the side to lift that hand, and then taking your back foot forward and up and back. And then we'll switch sides. Inevitably, there will be one that you reach forward with the wrong foot. Don't worry too much about it and just keep going. So, coming from down dog. So I'm going right foot to right hand, lift that hand, reach up, and then step it all back. Then left foot to left hand. Yeah. There you go. So if you're just getting the feel of the movement, just keep going. Thinking left hand, left foot, reach through, and back up. If this is familiar, you're starting to really think about the hand that's on the ground, keeping the elbow spiraling forward and lifting your hips. And we're going to do 8 to each side. Keeping that push and spiral with your hand, your ribs pulled in. And you can step forward with lots of control, or you can kind of hop if you like. Whatever you're doing, keeping the push and the spiral with your arm that's on the ground, and keeping your ribs pulled in so you just scoot right through, nice and lightly. And after 8, pausing that down dog, you can come down to your knees and bring your arms back by your side to give them a little break. Awesome. Okay. So the last thing we're going to do, I'm on a yoga mat and some wood, so it's not going to go super well for me because slippery floors are better. However, I think you guys are probably going to be okay. So grab some piece of fabric, like can be your shirt or a sock or a dish towel, like anything that's going to be a little slidey. So what we're going to do are these core slide twists. So I'll show it to you first, knowing that it's not going to be super smooth as I do it because I'm not on a smooth surface. So with the fabric under one hand, I'm going to come to my plank, and I'm sliding that hand forward, and that lets me twist, and then pull it back. I'm going to pass it to the other hand, so the hand that's on the fabric just slides straight forward. Since my ribs are pulled in and my hips are tucked under, everything moves as one piece, and I pull it back in. So the key is that the hand on the ground, you keep pushing, and that's going to encourage your ribs to be pulled in, and then you're rotating along that. Yeah, very nice. And we're going to do 5 to each side. Yeah, there you go. And your hand, it doesn't need to move super far. The farther you reach it, the more you're twisting. So make sure you're in control. Looking good. Yeah. Bringing a little bit of extra attention to the hand on the ground. Really push it away. Spiral your elbow creases forward. And feel how that knits your ribs right in. Nice. And then when you're done your 5 on each side, you can just stretch your wrists out, so backs of hands on the ground, just stretch them out a bit. Because even with the forearm warm-up, planks are still rough on your wrists. Making a couple little circles. Awesome. Okay, if you need a drink, grab a quick drink. And any bands if you have them. If you don't, that's cool. Just let me know what you're using. Sweet. Okay, so we're gonna do a little shoulder mobilizing and strengthening. So first thing we're gonna do is just come into your child's pose with your hands scooted back a little bit. So you're not as reached out as possible. You're kind of at about 45 degrees, keeping your ribs pressed down into your legs. We're just gonna do circles with your arms. So with one arm, first couple just circling it around, getting it moving, and then starting to reach a little farther forward and make that circle a little bit bigger. We're going to do 8 on each side. So we're doing these first because this is going to be our baseline. So you're not forcing it too much, you're just kind of feeling where there might be any sticky spots or feeling where it might not feel as strong as you would like. After 8, switching to the other side, same thing. The first couple are nice and easy just to kind of get your arm moving. And then you can start reaching in a bigger circle. So we're going to come back to this one at the end of it all. So this is getting it going, but also giving you something to judge yourself against. Cool. Yeah. All right. After 8, the next one we're going to do are some upper body twists. So you're going to take one elbow, place it so it's just against your knee, but make sure you can stack your elbow or your shoulder over your elbow. So depending on your body proportions, tucking it in between your knees might mean that you can't stack it. So if that's the case, just scoot it out a little bit. Touching your knee just gives you kind of like a little anchor point. It's not super important. So the movement is hand at the back of your head. First step is stacking your shoulder over your elbow. So I'm pushing down into the ground and then twisting open and unwind. So each time you kind of come back to neutral and then stack and twist and down. We're going to do 8, really thinking about pushing your elbow down into the ground. That's going to make it a little bit more active and bring in a little bit more strength, and then twisting from that place. After 8, you can switch sides. Hand at the back of your head, push down into your elbow to twist, and down. If you want to be even more specific about your neck position, trying to keep your head pushed away from your shoulder, just like in the very beginning, with that hand behind your head. So your thumb is on your shoulder, your pinky is at the back of your head. That's going to help you spread your head away from your shoulder to keep your neck long, so that you're doing that rotation from your midsection as opposed to just looking up, which is definitely tempting. Awesome. Yeah. So this rotation is directly correlated with the extension of your upper back. So it can be kind of tough to like get that extension, and if you don't have that, that's when you feel like you can't control your ribs. Because if you can only actively get your shoulders to here, well, if you're trying to do a handstand, your body's going to get itself into, like, it has to stack itself over. So the only way to get your body weight over your hands is to stick your ribs out to get there. So that can be why, that's one reason it's really difficult to keep your ribs in and keep that engagement, because you just don't have quite enough active flexibility of your shoulders to allow it. So yes, doing core awareness stuff to pull your ribs in is one piece of it, but the other piece is getting that active flexibility, which is what the next one is for. Next one is for specifically, because the rotation is going to give you more space to extend from. So, you can do this with a band, but it's also really good without a band. What you can do if you don't have a band is hold something in your hand, like a water bottle, because it's going to give you that little bit of extra weight and kind of tell you if you're doing any weird rotation, especially if your water bottle is not full. Because as soon as you turn, the water is going to move, and you're gonna know. So you can choose if you want to. I'll do it with a water bottle today, just because I haven't demonstrated that before. But you can also do it with a looped band around your forearms. Just make sure it's just above your wrist so that you don't get to do any weird wrist movements and think that you're using your shoulders more than you are. So you're gonna have your palms facing together, slight pressure out into the band. Your hands are going forward on the ground. The farther forward they are, the closer to that full extension you're starting, so it's going to be really difficult. So you can slide your hands back a little bit. Your ribs are pushed into your knees so that you can't arch and cheat. You're pushing out into the band, and then with one arm up and down. If that's easy, slide your hands slightly farther away. Make sure you have the pressure out into the band, and then you can do them there. So we're going to do 8 on each side. So I'm doing it with my bottle now. So I'm reaching forward. I'm trying to reach forward, up and down, up and down. And I'm watching the bottle to make sure it's going straight up and down and not tipping inwards. After 8, you can switch to the other side. Take a moment to reset your position, ribs down into your legs, reaching your hands forward, up and down. And again, just watching that hand to make sure my shoulder's not doing any weird rotations. And it's going smoothly up and down. Yeah, resistance with bands or with weights, they're just slightly different, so doing both is good. And it makes you think about it slightly differently, so it's good to do both for that reason as well. Okay, so that kind of gets this shoulder opening going a little bit. So the other piece of that puzzle of keeping your ribs in while also maintaining the extension and the push, there's a lot going on in a handstand, which is why we want to make sure we get all the pieces. So the other part of that is the serratus, which is what connects your shoulder to your midsection. So if that's not helping, which it doesn't like to do, that's when your ribs are like, oh, I can help. I can get you a little bit of arch to get you a little bit more extension. So we're going to train that guy to help suck your shoulder blade down onto your ribs, because then this is going to stay really stable as you push or as you hang and pull. It's definitely a bit of a tricky one to get, which is why so many people don't really know about it. So we're going to use the band, and if it's not a stretchy band, that's cool. Just something to wrap around, so it can be like a belt or a strap, but you're going to get it around your elbows in a loop. Yeah. So this serratus, which is kind of like, it's just above your lat and it helps suck that shoulder blade on. It reaches kind of from this, like, just above your sports bra line, and you're going to feel it there up into your armpit. So that's where you're trying to get that sensation. So it's going to be the same position as we were just in, but this time with bent elbows. Yeah. So my elbows are bent and on the ground, and my hands are pointing straight up towards the ceiling, but with my palms towards me. So I'm going to spread my elbows apart so they're at shoulder width apart. So that's how you can kind of set your band. We're going to go criss, cross. Now, with one hand, you're going to reach your fingers straight to the ceiling, up and down. So the farther away your elbows are, the harder it's going to be. So to start, they can be pretty close to your knees to kind of get the feeling of it. So criss, cross, and then one hand is going straight towards the ceiling, up and down. To make it harder, you can scoot your elbows out slightly farther, and we're going to do 8 lifts on each side. So you're trying to feel your elbow reaching forward and up. That's what really gets it into that armpit feeling. After 8, take a little break because it is a little muscle that doesn't get specific attention very often, so it gets tired quick. Yeah. So the crisscross just kind of gets like the rotation, it sets it into place, and then you're thinking, pushing forward with that elbow and up. So you could imagine that if someone were to have their hand on your shoulder blade, this would all be like flattened out and not winging in any weird direction. And you should feel it kind of reaching this area underneath up into your armpit. And of course you can feel it in your delt and that whole shoulder area. Everything gets tired, but you should feel that extra little ache up into your armpit. Nice. Sweet. Did you guys kind of feel that a little bit? Starting to get a bit tired? It's a bit of a weird one, like it is, because it's kind of this like swoop and up. So it took me a few goes to kind of feel it. So what I want you to do, we're gonna do one more for your shoulders, a classic. So now we get to use those rotators. You can sit however you're comfortable. And with a band, if you're using a not stretchy band, just let your hands slide along it to go out and back in, and then you can just readjust. So, to warm up your rotators, elbows at your side, palms up. Without clenching your elbows to your side, so they're just staying there, you're going to go externally rotate out and in. We're going to do 8. Actively trying to keep your shoulders pulling down away from your ears, so this all lengthens, and you can feel your shoulder blades squeeze together in the back. So that's ensuring you're warming up those little tiny rotators in your shoulder, but also making sure that the major muscles around your shoulder are doing the work. Excellent. After 8, we're going to switch to one side. So again, if your band isn't, you have stretchy bands now, yay! I don't even need to give all those extra cues. So, one hand is going to stay anchored, other hand rotates out. You're going to keep it bent at 90. This one doesn't move. You're going up and down. Yeah. Imagining that you're like back against the wall and you're just like skating your hand next to the wall up and down. So it doesn't get to pull forward. You're really working that overhead, that straight line overhead range. So if you look at it from the side, you see that I arrive at that place that my elbow's stacked over my shoulder, which is your handstand line, up and down. And do between 5 and 8. They are little muscles, so huge reps aren't necessary. And you want to make sure that you're doing it with good form instead of doing too many and they get sloppy. So after your 8, you can give yourself a little wiggle and then switch to the other side. Rotating out, up and around, and down. And notice if your 2 shoulders are different. They probably are. It's not a big deal, but it's a good thing to be aware of. Because the more imbalanced you are, the higher your risk of injury. So if you notice that consistently one side is a little bit weaker, a little just less coordinated or anything, that's good. That's probably your less dominant side, and it's a good practice to start with that side, because then you can do it while you're fresher, and it means that you can do a set on your bad side, a set on your good side, and then an extra half set on your bad side to help catch it up to your good side. So yeah, starting with your bad side, I always really like to do, because it means that you have something that you're better at to look forward to, but it also gives you the opportunity to do a couple of extra reps on that side to catch it up. Sweet. So we're going to go back to the first circles just to see how it's feeling, because now you've gone through all these ways of rotation, so hopefully your shoulder will feel a bit freer. So you can come back to that child's pose and just do a few circles on each side, noticing if it feels a bit freer, and that hopefully you have access to a bit more of your musculature in your upper back because you've warmed it all up. Yeah, so trying to reach up and over the top with your ribs pinned down to your knees as much as possible. Sweet. Yeah. So just take a moment, now that your shoulders are all warm, kneeling on the ground or sitting however you're comfy. You're going to pull your ribs in so your back is flat. You're not like super rounded, but just pull gently in. And then with your arms, just bring them straight up, only as far as you can go, keeping your ribs pulled in and reaching towards the sky. So that's your handstand line. Yeah, hopefully it feels a bit straighter and freer than it maybe would have otherwise. Yeah, nice. Awesome. And Cindy, even as you went, you kind of felt stuck here, and then it looked like I could see you thinking, okay, ribs in, okay, I just warmed this up, I can use it to pull myself a little further. So it really, doing all these activations, it doesn't necessarily like transform your muscles, but it does transform your awareness of it, which is a huge part of the battle. Nice. Yeah. So you just got like an extra 15 degrees just by thinking about it, which is deadly. Yeah. Very nice. Okay. So that's our shoulder section. So grab a quick drink. Do you have any questions about any of that? Shoulders are really complex things because there's so much going on there, and every muscle from your arms and your midsection kind of coalesces at your shoulder. So there's so many factors there, which again is why handstands are so dang difficult. But yeah, hopefully that kind of helped you a little bit. So grab a quick drink and we'll do some core. Okay, so I want to do a slightly different kind of style of core workout. We'll do a little bit of like awareness building and then some of our endurance stuff. So again, these are all things that are going to help your handstand line, which was kind of the idea of it all today. Okay, so we're going to lie on your back. Your head's going to stay heavy, your shoulders are going to stay heavy, and I want you to just put your hands on your stomach. So I have my pinkies on my hip bones and my thumbs on my ribs, and then my fingers just kind of gently laying on my stomach. Then you're going to feel all the different sections of your stomach working. So, tucking your tail slightly to push your low back into the ground. You should feel your lowest abs kind of almost at your hip line, your like underwear line. You should feel those contract slightly. So pushing your back into the ground, you're going to walk your toes out slowly, little steps at a time, until you get to pretty much straight. And then you're going to walk them back in. So you're trying to keep your low back really quiet, so you're not rocking side to side. You're just pushing equally into both sides as you walk your feet in and then back out again. So that's just starting to give you some information about how your core works in that straight extended position and how it works in that crunched, kind of slightly easier bent knee position. We'll do that 2 more times, walking out and in, out and in. Locking your heels out, trying to keep your back, your low back really quiet so you're pushing evenly into it, and then walking back in. Feeling your lowest core muscles, your transverse abdominis, doing that work to pull your legs in. And one more time, walking out. So they're just little tiny steps, and then back And you can walk your feet all the way in to plant them on the ground so that you can just touch your heels with your fingers. So that kind of moves you in that direction. Now we'll get some obliques going. So you're going to bring your hands to the back of your head. I don't recommend holding onto your head because it's really easy as you get tired to yank on your neck. Instead, you're going to just touch your ears gently and lift your head and shoulders off the ground. So you're going to really tuck your tail to push your low back into the ground, knit your ribs in, thinking handstand, and then we're going to crunch directly side to side. So you're not coming up at all, you're just reaching side to side. And you're just going to keep going, and I'll give you some cues to think about. So trying to keep your pelvis quiet so your legs aren't moving all over the place. And thinking about crunching your rib to your hip, side to side. So you're using those side abs to crunch and make your side shorter as opposed to like swinging side to side. We're going to go for 10 more seconds. So crunching rib to hip, while still keeping your hips nice and quiet so they're not hiking up to meet your ribs. Your ribs are crunching down to meet your hips. 3, 2, 1, and then relax. So your very upper abs had to do some work to keep your ribs pulled in as your sides, your obliques, did the work to move you. Some exciting things to look forward to as you start shifting your weight in your handstand. So the last thing is going to be your upper body, so you can stretch your legs out. If you have trouble keeping your pelvis tipped and your low back pressing into the ground, you can bend your knees slightly. That kind of encourages the good pelvis position that you want. It's up to you. If you have those slightly bent knees or straight, you're going to bring your hands up by your ears, and you can hold on to them however you're comfortable. You can kind of stack them or clasp them, whatever you're comfy doing. You're going to tuck your tail, push your low back in, and lift your upper body up. So you're trying to push everything into the ground except for your head and shoulders, and then down. So we're going to do 20 of these lifts, and try to keep your gaze up towards the sky. That's going to help you resist the urge to tuck your chin into your chest and like round forward. Your shoulders are staying at your ears, and that angle isn't changing. It's just your ribs pulling in and out. Hips tuck under, ribs pull in and out. If you're starting to shake, don't worry about it. It means that all those little stabilizers that have now been working hard for quite a while are getting tired. So it doesn't just mean that your major core muscles are weak. It doesn't mean that at all. It means that everything else is trying to help you, and they don't quite know how because they don't always do it work. So I have 5 left, so if you're going at my pace, you can do 5 with me, relaxing through your neck as you get tired, and really pushing your back into the ground. And then you can relax. So, rock that up. Yeah. So what you're doing is encouraging your midsection to retain that line by moving in 3 different directions. By moving your lower body in and out, by moving your upper body up and down, and moving yourself side to side. So those 3 things kind of target all the areas of your core, which is the idea. Awesome. Okay. So that was our kind of like easing into it little moment. We're going to do just a mini, like a 5 exercise abs express. So we'll do the exercise for a minute, take a little break, show you the next one, and we'll do it that way. Yeah, so this is kind of, now that you're at the end of it all, it's building your endurance, which is really valuable to do while you're tired. That's where you get to build your strength. Okay, I'll give you a couple of options. So we're going to start with dead bug because they're the best. This is the thing that's going to give you that pelvis control. And once you have control over that, then you can anchor yourself in your core, and it's going to be easier to get your ribs in your handstand line. So you can use a prop for it if you like, but it's totally unnecessary. So dead bugs are lying on your back, legs at 90, tucking your tail to press your low back into the ground, and we're going to drop one leg at a time. So doing them just like this is great. If you want a little extra challenge, you can take a block and push it into your knees, so you have to hold it there while you're dropping your legs. You can also just do that with your fingers. So I'm just going to start our timer now. The head is heavy on the ground, tucking your tail to drop your foot. So the block or your fingers on your knees are nice because it tells you it gives you information about any rotation that's happening. So maybe as you're dropping, you're kind of rotating to the side of it. The block's going to tell you. So really tucking your tail, pushing your low back into the ground. If you're getting tired, that's okay. So am I. Pushing the block into your knees. So you're trying to resist that hip click. If it's clicking, tuck your tail a little bit more. If you want to make it slightly harder, you can extend your leg towards straight. And you have 5 more seconds. So just keep breathing, pushing your low back into the ground. And you're done. Yay. Take a moment to roll over in your stomach. Stretch out your core. Mine's definitely feeling tired, in need of stretch. Sweet. So next one. If you have a thing to pass from hand to hand, not a weight, just like a sock or a band or something, it's helpful, but not necessary. So what we're going to do is Superman passerins. So lying on your stomach, you're going to lift your head, lift your arms to reach your ears, so you're trying to get that straight line. But since your ribs are on the ground, you don't get to cheat in your regular ways. So hands up, and you're going to pass the thing from hand to hand. So one circle in each direction is one, and then down for a moment, and then start again. So I'll start your timer. Now. So lifting your head, reaching your arms to reach your ears, reach back and around, and back, and down. Head, and each time you reach back, trying to lift your chest a little bit more. Lift everything off the ground, and down. Head, arms, pass around. Pass around. Back, halfway there. Down. 15 more seconds. And really trying to lift your chest as you reach back. And you're done. Huzzah. Excellent. Okay, so we're going to do alternating leg switches, but with some extra pulses. So, you can have your handstand by your side, legs up in the air. You're going to lift your chest just like we did for these crunch ups. You just don't have to have your arms up because you've done a lot of shoulder things. So you're pulling your ribs in, tucking your tail. You're going to drop one leg. You're going to pulse it 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Back up. Other leg. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Really trying to keep your low back pressed into the ground. So you don't want to pulse and arch. None of that. Push your low back. Keep that tail tucked. Little tiny pulses and switch. And starting now. So lifting your head and shoulders and then dropping one leg. Pulse. 2, 3, 4, 5. Switch. Pulse. 2, 3, 4, 5. You can also just switch your legs if you don't want to meet at the top. But if you find that that's making you arch your low back, slow it back down to stop in the pike. If your head gets tired, you can support your head for these guys, because it's a bit more about your low core and not your neck taking over. Halfway there. If you feel like you're losing it, take a moment, give yourself a second, and then reset your position. Pulling your ribs in, tucking your tail, drop, 2, 3, 4, 5. Nice straight legs. And you're done. Sweet. Okay. That was a lot of low core. Now we'll get your upper core working. These ones are a nice one, especially after those Superman pull-arounds. You're going to have your arms up by your ears, tuck your tail. That's what initiates the momentum to roll back, and then you're compressing. So dropping your hips to the ground as your legs are heavy, trying to compress that pike and squish one vertebrae at a time back into the ground. So this is a good low core, like controls your legs by your core, but it also is a nice mobilization for your upper back, which is a nice release after all the shoulder things. So starting your timer now. Tucking your tail. So you're using as little momentum as possible. You're trying to be in control at every angle. Tucking your tail, rocking back. You can always give yourself a little extra stretch by letting your hips come higher, as long as you compress through that pike as you come back. As your pike. And really feel that you have control of your whole lower half from that tail tuck. That's what gets your legs moving back and what controls them on the way down. And you're done. Nice. Deadly. So the last one we're going to do is we're going to do twist ties. So this is going to get your inner thighs talking to your low core and getting that rotational control. So in case you haven't done them in a while, you're reaching to your toes, both hands on one leg, drop the other one down, then twist tie. So you're trying to push your low back into the ground and twist your legs as much as possible. Unwind up. Head and hands down. You're going to reset with a hip lift. So just tucking your tail to lift your hips off the ground. It's just a little one. And then doing the other side. Okay. Starting your timer now. Reach. Drop. Twist. Unwind. Up. Hip left. Reach. Really trying to reach your hands towards that bottom foot, so you're twisting your legs, crunching forward, unwind up. Halfway there. More seconds. And same. Awesome. So yeah, the more control you can get of all of your limbs and connecting them all to your center, the more you're going to be able to save little things in your handstand and find your balance. So that is, you can take a moment to like stretch out your stomach a little bit. So that's the workout. So since you've activated your core and opened up your shoulders, you're all prepared to do some handstands if that's what you have some energy for. And if you don't, just take a moment to see if you can find your handstand lying on your belly. So I know that Sarah does this sometimes if you're doing endurance and you can't make it through whatever time. When you come down, you do the belly on the floor. So if you want to try to put everything you just found into action, you can lie on your stomach, your hands against the wall, tuck your tail slightly, pull your ribs in, and try to push the wall away. So hopefully that line will feel a little bit nicer than it sometimes does because you've freed up all the necessary pieces. And if you have some handstand energy, use it because you're all warm and good to go. Yeah. But yeah, doing the ribs pulled in with that extension is definitely, like, that's the flexibility crux of a handstand. So doing this core work of kind of getting control of your core as well as that extension of your shoulders is gonna really help you. Yeah, and Lisa, she's doing some elbow stand prep over here. So that's also going to be really good training for handstand because it's a little less intensive on your arms. However, I find it even harder since you don't have this long lever to make up for any imbalances. It's really hard to get that extension with your ribs pulled in. So if that connection is what you're working on, elbow stand's going to be a really good place to do that maybe doesn't take as much wrist energy. They're not any easier than a handstand. Yeah, you have a bigger base of support, but flexibility-wise, like, I think they're harder, and they're exhausting. So it's a good thing to do, and it's gonna really help your handstand.